All right, friends, welcome back to the Build Show. We're at my buddy Michael Dean Homes job site, and I gotta tell you, the details here are absolutely bomber. Like, look at this front door. Stainless steel sill pan, this beautiful peel and stick house wrap with all those penetrations perfectly caulked at each location. This is a really well-built house. Now, the product we're talking about today is made by a Texas company called Polyguard. I've been using this now for about 15 years, and I gotta tell you, this has gotta be one of the most, if not the most, bomber exterior water and air barriers you could possibly use on any custom home. Today's Build Show is sponsored by Polyguard. Let's get going. Okay, y'all, so if you've seen my videos for any length of time, for about the last 15 years, this has been my go-to for the outside of the house for making sure that both water and air are prevented from getting to my wood framing. This product in the past, you may have heard me called Alumaflash. They've rebranded, same product, same company, but the product is UV2-40 by Polyguard. The UV2 means that actually I can have this out and exposed to UV rays for 2 years, and the 40 stands for 40 mils thick. So here's the couple things I like about it. First off, this is a peel and stick material. This comes in 36-inch rolls. We're gonna roll a primer on. We can use pretty much any wood sheathing. We could use OSB, plywood, whatever type you want, 5/8, half, 3/4 plywood even. This house though has something that I've never seen before. Michael Dean's project manager, Eric, used zip system sheathing as the sheathing on the house, omitted the accessories, meaning there's no tape on here, just sheathing for the sake of sheathing. And then when he rolled the primer on and stuck it, you can see this is perfectly stuck. His guys did a really nice job. The whole house is gift wrapped. Now here's what I like about it. If I were to cut a hole here with my knife, just slice a hole right here, and water were to get to that space, what would happen? Maybe I'd get a little bit of a problem on the wood right where that slice was, but what I wouldn't get is water rolling down and rotting for 2 or 3 feet below here. Compare that to a standard staple-on house wrap that we've used for years. If I have a slice in that and then cladding goes on and there's something above where water gets in, it'll run in the face until it hits that slice, and then it's gonna rot everything below. A peel and stick is a really good way to make sure that we don't have water getting into the assembly and rotting out wherever there's maybe a slice or a cut or a problem. The other thing I like about this product in particular, if you put your finger on here, it's 40 mils thick. And actually, here's a little, some job site damage that could be fixed. But look how thick that is. Some job site damage, and yet you can tell that there's no water getting behind it. There's no wood exposed. This is a really thick membrane. Now there's this gray material on all the seams. This happens to be Detail Sealant PW. All of these products really started in the commercial world and are still used in the commercial world, but Polyguard markets these both to commercial guys and residential builders like me because this is such a bomber product. Now, 15 years ago, I'd never heard of this before. There was a builder in town named Ray. Some of my Austin friends know who he is. He's retired now. He was using this, and other builders are like, oh man, what's up with Ray's houses? There are these big silver boxes, and he seems to be able to let them go for a long period of time because the aluminum is not breaking down right in the face. That's why there's a 2-year exposure rating on this. But we were worried at the time, like, what about perm rating? What's the perm rating? All the house wrap manufacturers talking about the perm rating. Well, guess what? If you're in the South, climate zone 1, 2, or 3A, it really doesn't matter. You can actually have a 0 perm product on the outside of your house. What really matters is keeping water out of the house and keeping air out of the house. And this does a fabulous job of that. This is making sure that I've got a true barrier, a true shield on the outside of the house. Now back to the caulking. This Detail Sealant PW is being used to stitch down the seams, meaning there's an overhang here. This is a 3-foot wide product. It looks like they ran it mostly vertical on the house, and then all the horizontal and vertical seams, they've put this Detail Sealant PW on there. It's kind of like the thread stitching on your jeans, right? To make sure that where those come together, they're not gonna pull apart. This locks that overhang together, or that seam or that lap. This is really nice. Now there's a couple options for this as well. I've used some other products besides this. I typically go for a product called BBLF, that's Blue Barrier Liquid Flash, or BBGF, that's actually one of my favorites. That's Blue Barrier Gap Filler. Those are fluid applied flashings that also will work in this situation. Now the benefit of the GF product is there's some fibers in it, so it can actually span a pretty good distance. And all of these also stick really well to other materials. So you're gonna notice where Michael Dean's house here comes down and hits the foundation, they've overlapped the UV 240 down onto the concrete, and then they've used that same detail sealant PW there. And it's sticking to both the concrete, the wood, and the aluminum facer on this peel and stick house wrap. Blue Barrier Liquid Flash or Blue Barrier Gap Filler would also work equally well. Those stick to all those different materials. And then he's also done a couple of accessories that are interesting where he's got electrical penetrations. You can see that he's using these quick flash boots, and I noticed on the inside he's got these stocked in a bunch of different sizes. Now this one hasn't been detailed yet. He's gonna come back with a probably a 3 or a 6-inch roll of UV 240 and cover this around and probably use some of this detail sealant PW around there to make sure that the rest of that is waterproof. But man, the details on this house look really good. Now speaking of details, another detail that I really like is this stainless steel pan at the front door. Looks like he's got a beautiful white oak front door. It looks like the panels aren't in yet and the door's not in yet, but you can see the bottom of the pan here. What he did was that pan got installed first. He also installed the UV 240 and ran that into the jambs on both the sides and the head, and then integrated that stainless steel pan into the UV 240 so that basically any water that were to roll down would roll into that pan and then out. The other beauty of the pan is it gives us a back dam. So like, you know, where this panel and this panel come together, that could be a spot that water could get into that pan. We want that water to hit a back dam and then roll forward. I think it's interesting, Michael's done that on some of his windows, but not all of his windows. He's used that detail sealant PW on the back side of those windows to make sure that water doesn't roll back. And he's also brought his waterproofing, his UV 240, into the inside on the whole house. Now this detail right here though is what will absolutely sell you on a product like this. Look at that, where these Doug fir tails are coming out on this kind of front door arbor. Look how nicely those are sealed. And then if you look up further on the actual tails on the house, now those aren't actual, those are probably fake tails I would suspect, but look how nicely that's detailed all around there. That UV 240 is coming up and actually touching the roof deck, and then detail sealant PW, that gray caulking basically is used there. Now I tend to, as I mentioned earlier, use the BBGF or BBLF instead. So if you look at my houses, you're gonna see a blue instead of a gray. Either one is acceptable. And speaking of which, that you have some options on primer. You really want to use a primer on this product. You know, if I look, let's walk over here, you can see, look how nicely this has stuck, and that's because they use the primer. Now there's two options, 650 WB, which stands for water-based, and they also have a 650 RC, which is a solvent-based product. I've tended to use the solvent-based product mostly. I like a good solvent-based product, but the water-based one works just as well. And by the way, one nice thing about the water-based is you can ship that anywhere in the US. There's no restrictions on that. And you can also order all of these products from their online store, Polyguard Products /shop. So this is a little unique. You know, I actually tend to buy these off the shelf in Austin, Texas, where there's several supply houses I can pick this up. But if you're in an area where you don't have a retailer, you can order direct from these guys, and everything you're seeing on the job here from Polyguard is available on that website, as well as below grade waterproofing, ICF waterproofing, all that sort of thing. Let's walk this way though and look at a few more details. Where this window is installed, this is a traditional flanged window, and so what you're seeing is here's the flange right here. Then after they installed that window, see how we've got this gray right here and right here? This is that detail sealant PW. They've rolled out a 6-inch roll of this to cover over that flange, and then they've used that to stitch it to the window frame and stitch it where that overhang was. Boy, that is really nice. And then let's look at this piece right here. If you kind of pan from foundation all the way up, notice how instead of running it horizontally, they've run it vertically. Now, Michael tells me that he actually uses a waterproofing contractor that usually does commercial work. I don't do that. My frame carpenters have now been doing this for 15 years, so I've got my crew trained on using this. But it's really nice to run this vertically. That's a detail that commercial guys do all the time that I think more residential guys should use. The beauty of that is now, look, I've only got a seam on the right and a seam on the left, and I don't have that possibility of gravity opening up a horizontal seam on here. Now again, primer though. I can't tell you enough how important it is to run that primer. Now when you look at this wall, I mean, everything is gift wrapped, everything's tight. They ran a roller on this afterwards to make sure we had that sticky on sticky. And for any of you older contractors that ever did any laminate countertops, you remember when you put sticky on the base, you put sticky on the laminate and stick them, and it ain't going anywhere. That's exactly what's happening here. It's just absolutely stuck tenaciously. Let's keep walking. I'm going to show you a couple more details. Okay, so on the front of the house, I showed you where that brick lug was, and they'd brought down the UV 240 and done the detail sealant PW right up against that. Let's look at this spot. It looks like the brick or whatever's happening, rock or stone, is transitioning to here where we're flush. I do not have a lug. I don't know for certain, but I'm guessing this is probably a stucco wall. And if I look with my with my eyes and my fingers here, my guess is the framing actually stops right here. He's running that UV 240 down another 6 or 8 inches onto the concrete, and then that detail sealant comes on. So we've got good watershed, but that detail sealant PW onto that concrete gives us 2 additional benefits. Really good air sealing, right? And also some good bug sealing. Isn't that a really big deal? Do our clients really care about air sealing? Their eyes glaze over. It's really important, but it's hard to explain. But we start talking bugs and our clients, absolutely, their ears perk up. Anybody who's lived in Texas has had some nasty bugs in their house, those giant cockroaches we get. So if we talk about how this detail is gonna seal the cockroaches out, seal the ants out, is it gonna be 100%? No, but it's gonna do a much better job than standard detailing. Standard house wrap, let's say, that would stop right here and would let those bugs and ants come underneath that bottom plate. So this is a fabulous detail. And then also if you zoom out back here a little bit, you can see again, this is that 6-inch wide roll of UV 240 right here on both these windows. It looks like these Colby windows got installed recently, and they haven't come back yet to put that detail sealant PW on these like they had on the other windows. They also have some more UV 240 going on here at the garage. Wow, that is quite the beautiful awning over these 2 garage doors. Also interesting how he's got steel in there. Eric, the superintendent, was telling me how the engineer spec'd that to make sure it could hold the weight. But man, that's gonna be fabulous. And it's spaced off, I'm guessing, because there's maybe some brick or rock. Not totally sure, but boy, that's gonna be really pretty. And then again, you can see this is just zip system just being used as sheathing. This is just doing shear load for us, but it also makes a really, really nice spot to do a peel and stick on top of. Again, omitting the zip system tape and just using that as a panel product. Guys, big thanks to Polyguard for sponsoring today's video. We saw some really nice details here. And I do want to make mention, this is really intended for the South, for climate zones 1, 2, or 3A. If you get into the real cold climates, we do want some permeance on the outside unless we're doing perfect wall style. Meaning if we put all our insulation on the outside of the house, then we could do zero perm for sure. Not the same product, but a house I did several years ago that was my first Monopoly framed house. I had 0 interior insulation, 100% outsolation, and I used a zero perm peel and stick. That house now is a decade old, still looks beautiful, still functioning perfectly. So if you're in the north and you want to put all outside insulation, this will work great for you. And again, when you're building an expensive house like this, boy, does this look nice. And lastly, when you've got a client that is expecting a well-built custom home, there's nothing better than seeing this on the house. There's no flapping house wrap. All the details look fantastic. Huge shout out to my friends at Michael Dean Homes for letting me come out and check out their space today. And big thanks to Polyguard for sponsoring. You know, this is actually the very first Build Show sponsor. Way back in about 2013 or 2014 when I started doing weekly videos on my dorky YouTube channel, I started in 08. I reached out to these guys and said, hey, I love your product. I've been using it for a couple years now. Would you support me and help pay for these videos that I'm making that are frankly kind of expensive? And these guys now, a decade later, have been the original OG sponsor of the Build Show. Great people, employee-owned company based right here in Texas. These are made in Ennis, which is right outside of Dallas. I can't tell you enough good things about this system in particular for the custom homes that I build. Hey guys, one last thing. If you don't have a retail supplier nearby for you, you can buy just about everything in their catalog off their e-store, polyguard.com/shop. All this stuff can be delivered straight to your job site, so there's no excuses for not using the best product in the marketplace. That being said, guys, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content here every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show.